Hi everybody, this is Rich of the Rich Maxwell channel. Welcome back. Today doing a video about a great piece of software from Adobe called Lightroom. So this is a tutorial about Lightroom Classic. It's aimed at beginners just to get you started and get to know the basics of the program. Lightroom is a fantastic utility for a photographer or a photography enthusiast like myself. It enables you to properly organize and sort your photos, process your raw files, and then make various edits to the photos to really make them stand out and look unique and really impactful. So going to jump straight into the program now and walk you through all the basics of it, starting how to bring your files from your memory card into Lightroom, into a catalog, how to organize them, some basic things. But it's a fantastic piece of software. It's not too difficult to use. This is just to get you started, and then from there I'd suggest just having a play around in there. Great thing about Lightroom is that none of the changes that you make to photos are going to really impact the file itself. They're non-destructive edits, so unlike Photoshop, if you don't have to save anything, it's all just there in Lightroom. It doesn't actually change the actual files themselves, so you can make any changes you want and don't have to worry about ruining your photos. So getting straight into it now, over to the laptop. So this is my tutorial on Lightroom. So we'll start off by just putting a memory card then into my laptop here, and it should come up with an auto import window. So here we are then. Now then, we're going to get the options to decide which photos we want to import from the memory card and where to import them to, and then also a few other things as well which we're going to go through on how to import things. So as you can see, when you put your memory card in, it will automatically avoid duplicates, so things that are already imported onto the computer that won't be selected by default. So that's really handy. If you're just using one PC, one version of Lightroom, then it can be really easy to manage things. I actually have two PCs that I use with two separate Lightroom catalogs, so it gets a bit more complicated for me, as there will be bits on here that I won't want to import, and then there'll be things that I do want to import that are not on the other computer, so it can get a bit more complicated. But yeah, just going to run through basic things. So as you can see, you get your list of photos. You've got tick boxes in the corner of them all there, and you can also just click on them and then they go grey. So what I like to do is just click on the photos that I want. So these are just some photos that I took in the woods recently, but obviously they're greyed out, so they've already been imported. If I wanted to, I can get these photos here, some random shots that I took with a new lens that I was trying out, and I highlight those using the shift, click on them, and then select them all together, and then tick the box that ticks them all then. And then I've got the options here on the right of where to import them to. So I put them all into an external drive that I've got hooked up to my network called My Book, and then I choose usually photos there, and then you can click to name a subfolder to put them into. So I'm just going to call this Lightroom Tutorial. So that's going to be the folder there. And then if we wanted to as well, we can back up the folders. So I tend to put everything into a backup there on my Z drive, which is another drive hooked up to my network here. So I back up all my photos to that. And I can't stress enough how important it is to back up your files, as I recently had a ransomware attack which took out all of my files and encrypted them. So I lost a lot of photos, a lot of old photos, and a lot of data from that. So I can't stress enough how important it is to back up things. So that's the basic import settings there. So you could click import then, and it's going to put them into those folders for you. And you've got the option to copy as a DNG or just copy as R. So I shoot on my Sony camera, so the raw files are ARW raw files, but if you wanted to convert them to DNG, which is kind of an Adobe raw standard, you've got that option as well. Doing that will take longer though, as it will have to sort of process the files and edit them. So I'll just import them as they are. And then you also get options about your previews, and so I just typically go with embedded. And you've got the option there to go for standard or one-to-one. Standard and one-to-one are bigger preview files, so they're going to take longer to import, so I just leave it at that. And so yeah, the previews are essentially what you'll see in the library when you're scrolling through your photos, and then when you click in develop, then you'll get into the full image. So I don't think it's too important to have high quality previews, but you may have a preference either way, so you might want to go for the higher quality ones if you're happy to wait for a bit longer for an import. So there's the basic settings. Then you've also got the options to add some metadata, so you can set up a little preset for this. And what's good about metadata is that will automatically add your copyright information, if you want it to, onto your files. So you get to add various presets. I've just got untitled preset, and then copyright information, my name, and that's my older website, so I need to change that. And so yeah, that's we'll just put that data into the actual file. So if people try and steal your images from your website or your Facebook or wherever, they will often miss the metadata in the file. They might take out the watermark or crop to remove your watermark, but often people will just forget about the metadata. So that's a good way to make a claim if you do spot somebody stealing one of your images. So good thing to just add in on an import, and it does it all automatically for you. So just going to import those now. So we're going to click import, and that's going to put them all into a current selection box. And then we've also got options to, if we want to, we can add them to a collection, and the folders will all be down the left hand side here. So we've obviously chose a specific folder for this import, so that will organize everything nicely. So it's yeah, just importing now. So now the files are all there imported, so we can start working with them. So at the moment it will just have them in a sort of previous import type collection there. And you get the options then, if you wanted to add them to another folder, or you can add them to a specific collection. So here's your collections, so you can add a collection, create a collection, and then I'll just call this Lightroom tutorial. And then we can include the selected photos, so I haven't actually selected them there. So I've already used that name, so I think that was when I initially shot this video, but it didn't work. So we'll call it Lightroom tutorial 2, create that. And yeah, we just got one photo in there at the moment which was selected, but we can go to the previous import, just select all these, drag them over into there. So we've got them all in the Lightroom tutorial. Now, so as you can see, there's various tabs up here in Lightroom. The main two that we're going to use really is just library and develop. Map is if you wanted to see where your photos were taken, and then there's book, and you can create a slideshow, you can develop your photos for printing on there, but it's just typically library and develop that I use personally. So when you click on an image or double click on an image, it's going to enlarge it for you in the library. And to organize your images, what I like to do is I would just go through the images, and then I'll decide which ones I like the look of most, and then give them a star rating. So say if I like this one the best out of the images, I can give that, I would usually start off with a 4-star. And so that means if there's loads of images in here, most of them I'm not going to do anything with. I can just select the ones there that I like to, that I think I'll do some more work on, give them a rating, and then that's going to enable me to filter them. So I've just put 4 stars on 2 of the images there, then I can just click rated, and then it's going to just filter it down to those photos. So that's a really handy feature. You can also give them 3-star, 2-star ratings, and then filter accordingly. So I'm just picking out 4-star and above there, for a bit 5-star. Obviously nothing's selected, so that's a great way to organise your photos and find your best ones. And so yeah, once you've got things organised though, and you've got your head around collections and folders, you're going to want to know how to develop the photos. So that's the really fun part in Lightroom, where you can really play around with your images and get the most out of them. So I'll run through the basics here. There's a lot to learn in this, to be honest. So you've got various different options here. So you've got, this is the crop tool, You've got the spot removal tool there, so you can sort of clone bits. If it's a face where you want to take out blemishes and things, you can do a clone or heal tool. And then you've got the red eye correction. You've got a graduated filter, so that means if you've got a really blown out sky, you can put a filter on that's just gonna darken the sky and keep the foreground lighter, but also do various other things as well. You can do masks with that, and lots of other things that are really cool. And then radial filters are like kind of like circular filters, so similar to gradient filters, but enables you to just select various points in the image, and then say I've randomly selected that one. You can just obviously that's not inverted at the moment, but if I wanted to invert it and just change what's in the circle, click invert there, and then yeah, you can do some really cool things there. But we'll just reset the image for now. Anytime you do a load of adjustments, you don't like them, you can always just click reset and start again, so that's really cool. And then you've also got the option of the adjustment brush, so that's again a local adjustment sort of tool. You can just select a small portion of the image sort of manually to work on and apply them various corrections. So really handy tools there, but we'll just stick with the basics for now. So we're going to start off with cropping the image. So if you want to crop your image, you'd usually want to select a certain aspect ratio. So say you want to print it on normal photos 5x7s, select the 5x7, that's going to lock in the 5x7 sort of size. Then we're going to crop it down just by using the corners there, and once you've got a size you're happy with, you can then adjust the angle. So if it's a landscape image and you've got a horizon, you want to keep it straight. So if I wanted to keep this bit straight at the back there, I could do that using that tool. So that's really handy there to crop very quickly. And then we're back now to the basic corrections settings. So the way I like to edit is I like to start off by firstly adjusting my white balance. So that was a white wall at the back there, and using this eyedropper tool, you just click on it, click on something that's white or grey in the image, and that is going to correct all the white balance automatically for you. So that's really handy and really useful if you haven't selected your white balance properly in your camera. So you've got various sliders here to make adjustments to your images. The way I like to edit is I like to firstly get my blacks and my whites correct. So looking at the histogram up here, I can see I've got quite a lot of black in the image, and if I was to go too far that way, then I'm going to clip the image and really lose detail in the blacks. You can always see when you're clipping an image by pressing J on your keyboard, and that's going to bring up these colours, so that means it's just solid black, no detail at all. So that's not what you want really. You want to keep some detail in the images. So I'm going to move it across so that there's nothing clipped, and just check I've got the image that I'm happy with. Sometimes though you will have to clip slightly, as yeah, it's just one of those where you want to get the right colours in your image, but yeah, it's down to sort of personal preference really, how much clipping you're happy to see in the image. And likewise with the highlights, adjusting the whites, you can see that if we blow out the highlights, everything goes red. So as you can see, by moving the whites up too much, then you're going to get a lot of redness when you've got J pressed. So that's showing the blown out highlights. So we're going to move that down a bit. And to be honest, this image is pretty well exposed. There's not any clipping really, or drastically blown out highlights. It just looks like on the top of the microphone there's a little bit of a reflection, probably from a light inside there. So that's great. And next we're going to go to shadows. Now shadows is great because you can just bring out a lot of detail in your blacks. So as you can see, the standard it was quite a black sort of boring looking microphone there, and we move it up a bit and then we can start to see more of the microphone. And then same with highlights really, we can lower or raise it. It is a bit like adjusting the whites to the highlights, but it doesn't tend to cause the clipping so much once your whites are properly dialed in. So that looks pretty good. And now we can add a bit of contrast. So contrast can sometimes darken your image a bit and cause the detail in the blacks to go, so sometimes you want to come back then to your blacks, bring them up again. But yeah, it's all down to personal preference really in Lightroom what you're doing. And so go on to the next sliders. We've got clarity, texture and dehaze. So clarity, as you can see, will help you sort of blur things out or make things sharper. I try not to go too extreme on any of these dials, as it can just make an image look very artificial and fake, but certainly things like dehaze can be really handy in your landscape photos. Say it's a bit hazy or misty and you just haven't really got the clarity that you want. It can really bring an image back to life and rescue what could be otherwise a poor looking image. Now this image is very black and white, so we haven't really got any colours to play with, but if you did, then you can move the saturation and vibrant sliders there and get the colours to your liking, to your preference. And then going further down, we're getting into more complex settings now. The tones curve. What a lot of people like to do as standard is put like an S curve in, so that's going to kind of bring out the detail in the shadows, make a really sort of contrasty image. So you'll see that in a lot of preset packs, the S curve there. And then you've got the HSL sliders here where you can adjust various individual colours. I'm not going to go into loads of detail about those and what they do, as this is just a basic Lightroom tutorial to get you started really. But going down the sliders a bit more, we've got a few things here to do with the detail in your images, so you can adjust the sharpening to make things slightly sharper. You can reduce the noise in an image, so if you've shot at quite high ISO, you might want to move up the noise luminance slider. That's typically the one to mess with there, to take out the grainy and noisy sort of look in an image. And then you've got lens correction profiles, so you can just click on enable lens correction profiles, and usually it will find your lens for you automatically. And what that's going to do is take out any distortion that lens applies usually, and also it will take off vignetting in the image as well from the lens. So that's really good to just put on with all of your images. It's actually better to put that in right at the start, as the vignetting can interfere with the with balancing out the blacks and the shadows. So keep that in mind, and don't do what I did here, just tick that straight away and then get onto the adjustments at the top there. And going further down, we can apply some effects, so we can make a vignette on the photograph. So we can do something quite subtle like so, white or a black vignette. So if I wanted a nice white vignette around this microphone, I could go like this, and you can adjust the midpoint of that, make it like this, and feather it more or feather it less, however you want to make it look. So I'll just leave it like that for now. And what's great with Lightroom is that the adjustments that you make are non-destructive, so they're not permanent on the image. You can always just take the image back to standard by pressing reset. And also if you want to compare where you started from and how it is now, you just press the YY key there, and as you can see, it's quite a difference that the image has made. I'll unclick J to get rid of that red clipping, the red clipping colour on it there. But yeah, so that's really handy to compare your before and after. So just clicking through that button, you can also get like a split screen version of it, and that way as well. So that's basic development in Lightroom. Next we can go back to our library, and as you can see in our library, it will show the image with the adjustments. And so yeah, so that's what makes Lightroom so powerful really, all the ways you can adjust photos and bring out your images to their best. Now we're going to go on to exporting. So to export a photo, we can go to, well, there's a few options really. You've got export with previous, export with preset. I don't typically do the presets, I haven't set any up for export, so I like to individually set them myself. So I like to click export, and then you can click where you want to export to, or just say desktop for now. And obviously you can choose your file type. Usually when I'm exporting from Lightroom, I put it into a JPEG so that I can then use it on social media and whatnot. And you can click your quality. I always tend to just keep it 100%. I like to have maximum quality on my images. And going down as well, we've got the option to put in a watermark. So I like to watermark a lot of my images. These you'll need to set up. So when you go edit, there's various options. You can import a photograph for your watermark, or you could just add some text in if it's easier for you. But I've already set this up, so I've got my watermarks in there. So I've got a few different ones. So if I've got quite a white background, then obviously I'm going to use a black logo. If I've got a black background, then I'll use a white logo. So once I'm happy with the export settings, I just click export, and then that is the image done. So you'll find it there in the folder that it's exported to. So that is pretty much it. That's the basics then to get started in Lightroom. So we've covered off how to import your images from your SD card, a bit of how to manage them in collections there, and a bit of how to sort them with filters. There's much more you can play around with though in the filters. You can filter to a particular camera, to particular sort of like exposure informations and various things. So have a mess around with the import settings and the filters, and yeah, really get a way a method that you like in order to organize your folders and your photos. I think I need to actually do a bit more work on my my Lightroom collection, as it is just a bit all over the place at the moment. But yeah, it's a superbly powerful tool. You've also got options to export to various sites directly from Lightroom. I've not really found that the Facebook one works. I think Flickr worked, and Adobe Stock, I think I was having some trouble getting that to work as well for some reason. So yeah, I just typically export my files in JPEGs and I use them from there. So yeah, so we've covered the import settings, the basic sort of file management, how to develop, and then how to export your photos. So I hope this has been useful. This is really just aimed at beginners, to people that are getting started in Lightroom, and it's the Lightroom Classic that we've been looking at. So the other version of Lightroom, the more modern one, the cloud-based one, is the same really, apart from that it's a lot more cloud-based and it doesn't quite have as many features as Lightroom Classic. So I prefer to stick with Lightroom Classic. I'll sometimes just import things then into normal Lightroom if I want them in the cloud and accessible on my phone. But yeah, typically I just use this version of Lightroom. So I hope this has been useful. Please consider subscribing and liking the video, and join me again soon. Bye for now.